come to me. Come to me. I've never shared my secret with any soul.
You've had these spells since childhood. Tell me what you can from the beginning.
So for Robert Eggers' newest film, he makes his own version of Nosferatu. And, you know, I was kind of looking at it going like, he's going to make a Nosferatu movie? Yeah, I can see that. Much like, you know, like, because looking at his past movies like The Witch, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can see him doing that. So when I heard that Nosferatu, that this new version of Nosferatu was going to be done by Robert Eggers, I said, you know what? I like that. Especially since his past movies were all period pieces. And he even said, like, he does not want to make a modern day movie. He wants to make, like, you know, past movies. So I'm like, okay, you know, I respect that. He wants to make, like, almost like vintage movies, which is cool. I like that. And I really enjoyed, I enjoyed The Witch. I really love The Lighthouse. And I even enjoyed The Northman. It felt very different, but had the same kind of style on it. Whereas, like, okay, it's, you know, it's the revenge stuff, but I like what they did with it. It was very, like, Viking-esque. I like what they did. So when I heard that he was going to do a Nosferatu movie, I was like, all right, that's cool. You know, give him, like, property like that. I think he can do a really good job, much like with, like, Burton. I think if you give, like, Tim Burton, you know, a property that is very gothic, like Sleepy Hollow or Sweeney Todd, I think he can do a really good job. You give him something like Planet of the Apes, and it'll fall on its face. So with this, I was like, you know what? Makes sense. I'm interested to see what he does. And he does not disappoint. So, you know, we all know Nosferatu's story. This one says, okay, we're going to take it and we're going to do just a newer rendition of it. And they do a really good job with it. Like, I really enjoyed it. The performances were great, but then, of course, you know, Robert Eggers is just, he's really good at getting performances, like really good performances out of actors. Like, for example, like Robert Pattinson with The Lighthouse. At the time, the only thing I really knew him for was Twilight. And I'm like, dude, you're not good. I still haven't seen that movie Good Time with him, which I heard was good, and I heard he was good in it. But when I saw The Lighthouse, and then they announced, like, okay, he was going to be Batman, I was like, huh. Like, okay, well, let me watch The Lighthouse. And I thought he was really great. I'm like, oh, he can actually act. He's not just a, you know, pale vampire who sparkles in the sun. Like, okay, great. And doesn't whine or cry or mope. You know, he doesn't do any of that. And, you know, with, like, Anya Taylor-Joy with The Witch, I think I'd already seen, like, a couple of other stuff with her in it. And then I saw that. I was like, yeah, she's really good. But with this one, the surprise for me was Lily Depp Rose. She was the surprise in the movie, where I was like, wow, you're really good in this. Nicholas Hoult, I always thought has been a really good actor. You know, Aaron Taylor Johnson is in this, which this kind of gave him the chance to do something more dramatic, because he's really only, I still see him as Kick-Ass, where I'm like, yeah, you're still kind of babyface, but him doing like Bullet Train gave him the chance to be more like action heavy, like much like Kick-Ass with like action stuff, but also have a little like humor to him. This one is more of, okay, give him more of a dramatic part, and he does a really good job with it. And Willem Dafoe, speaks volumes. He's one of my favorite actors, so that's kind of cheating. But I thought everybody did a great job. But yeah, Lily Depp Rose to me was the standout. Bill Skarsgård I thought was great. But here's where I'm going to get into this. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I don't mean to harp on this and kind of bash it. While I think Skarsgård's performance was great, his makeup and the way he looked, while I thought was good, it was when they showed his face, and it was just kind of like the mustache thing didn't really work for me. I know it's a different version of Nosferatu. I understand that. But just the way he looked was just kind of like, while I think physically, like a physical presence, it works. A lot of times when they use them in the shadows and in the dark, which they do a lot, I think works. It's just every time they showed his face, I was like, yeah, that's the part that doesn't work for me. But I really enjoyed him. Its pacing is a bit slow. It does take a little bit to get into. So if you have an issue with pacing, you're probably going to get bored by this pretty quickly. But I love the performances. The production and costume design I thought was incredible. I thought it was amazing. Cinematography was extremely well done. But then of course, I think all of Eggers' films look amazing. It just sucks that they've been snubbed in like the Oscars. Like I remember like The Lighthouse getting nominated for best cinematography, and that was it. And it lost because it was nominated against I think it was Roger Deakins. And I'm just like, they're gonna give it to him, and I'm not angry. I'm not pissed that they're giving it to Deakins because he absolutely deserves it. But you're going to nominate this film for only one thing when it should be nominated for a crap ton more. And that's kind of when I started losing respect for the Oscars and the Academy. But besides the point. And it is very dark, despite almost the fact that it almost looks like a black and white film. And you forget like, oh wait, this is actually in color. I forgot that. Which was a nice, like, cool thing they did because, the original from the 20s wasn't black and white. It was a silent movie. And the way they use that, they use the fact that, we don't have the power to turn film into color. They use that to their benefit. So that's why they used a lot of shadows in that movie, and it really worked. And with this, it was like Eggers and crew said, hey, we're gonna do this in color, but we're almost gonna make you believe that it's in black and white. Really the only parts that like are color is like a scene where they'll have like fire in the background or like in the scene. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right, this is in color. So it was a nice like misdirection. So it was almost like half black and white and half in color. So it was really cool the way they did it. It was very effective. I think it's a really good and different version of Nosferatu to the point where they said, hey, let's be different, but bring in a lot of stuff that worked in the original and even the past variations. And let's even bring some elements of the Bram Stoker's Dracula's book. And I think they do it very well. I think very well, actually. It's just, the pacing can be very slow. So if you get bored easily, you probably get bored by this. And, despite Skarsgård's performance, which I think he did a really good job, it's just his look was a bit problematic for me, mainly when it came to them showing his face. Like, I was like, that doesn't work for me. But his, like, physique, I thought his voice, he did really good. and the fact they use him in a lot of shadows, which is the main reason. So I really enjoyed that. Performances were great. It's visually stunning and very engaging. While I did have a few problems here and there, you know, I was able to kind of overlook that to a certain extent. But if I saw this movie in 2024, so last year, I think it would have been in my best movies of the year. Definitely not number one, but maybe like in like the tens or something like that, maybe. But while my favorite Robert Eggers films is hands down The Lighthouse, just because how, you know, brilliantly shot it is, from the performances to how incredibly funny that movie is, like unintentionally funny. This is still a really, really good movie. I would say maybe this to me, this was better than The Northman. Definitely not as good as The Lighthouse, and maybe a notch below The Witch. But I still fairly enjoyed this. Would I rewatch this one again? Absolutely. Because it is a very different version, but it keeps all the things that is great, and I think Robert Eggers did a really good job. So I give this a grade. I really enjoyed it. Will I rewatch it? Absolutely. And, you know, I can't wait to see what Robert Eggers does next. I mean, he has a werewolf movie next, and then he's going to do the sequel, reboot to Labyrinth, which I don't know why they're going to do it, but with him doing it, you know, I like to see what he does, so we'll see.
I'm ready.